I want people to know that mental health is real. It's a real part of your health. It's not separate. This is something that my mom and I talk about all the time. This book is one piece of a very huge vision for the world that my mom and I both have.
I'm so excited you guys are doing this, and I'm so excited to do it with you.
It's going to be great.
I guess I can just say it in the simplest way. The book is absolutely wonderful. It's so amazing. Gaga, your essay is so beautifully written. I can't wait to give it to my soon-to-be 16-year-old daughter, who is already so inspired by you and the foundation. How did the book come to be? Like, take me through the motions of getting the book to the people who need it most.
Well, the book, it actually first began as a digital platform where young people would write in stories of kindness and resilience and courage in their communities. And it was a way of giving them a platform to really show the positive nature of this generation, how aspirational they are, they want to do good. And that's not often told. So this was a platform for that. And we curated like hundreds and hundreds of stories from around the country, some from around the world.
And it was made by young people too. Our friend Emma Carroll, she works with the foundation and she named it Channel Kindness. She's wonderful, a very, very courageous, brave, victorious young woman. And you know, we always say this at the Born This Way Foundation. We always say, you know, made by young people for young people. And this is the love child of that dream.
We learned through that, Julie, this power of storytelling, how it was validating other young people's emotions and people in general, helping them heal and giving them courage to go on and face their own struggles.
Yes, most definitely. So for each of you, why would you say kindness is so important to you now?
Kindness has always been important to me, but it's more important than ever. I look at what's happening in the world and I think, what an act of bravery, what an act of courage. Everybody is doing the very best that they can at any given moment to keep going, to show love. There's also, of course, so many people that are suffering, and it's such an important time to share our stories. You know, when I look on social media, I see people share little bits of their lives, you know, and it's curated in a way that it's made to look kind of perfect. But the truth is that our true stories, the things that have made us who we are, you know, I wrote the foreword of this book. I wrote an essay in this book called The Value of Negative Space. And, you know, this is one of my stories and the stories of so many other young people. And these are the things that create highways, you know, from heart to heart, where we can drive into each other and we can experience what the other person's experiencing, where we can hold compassion, where we can hold empathy, where we can celebrate everybody's resilience. This is something my mom and I really, really believe in, and that we've been on a mission to create a kinder and braver world ever since we started Born This Way Foundation. And finally, our book is here.
Well, I mean, it's always important, but now more than ever, you know, I think mostly we know through our work at the foundation, especially through our research, that there's a definite connection between kindness and one's mental health. Mm-hmm. People that report being in kind communities are mentally healthier. And now more than ever, it's so important. I mean, we view mental health as the next pandemic. Mm-hmm. So the urgency of shining a light on that and using kindness to heal is urgent.
I agree. Gaga, you've said so many times over the years, and it's in this book even, that kindness was lacking in your childhood. The story about you being put in the trash was utterly heartbreaking. At the time, when you think back, did you realize there was a lack of kindness? How did you handle those moments?
You know, in the essay that I wrote in particular for this book, you know, I didn't include my whole life, but I included some very personal stories from when I was younger, before I was famous, because I really wanted to relate to the other people in the book as well as the world in a way where I said, hey, this happened to me when I was younger. This was before I was a star. These things are real. And the truth is, some bullies that went to a different school picked me up and they threw me in the trash can and they said, that's where you belong. They were trying to say that I was garbage. And I remember when it happened that I just sort of froze and I didn't know what to do, and I didn't stand up for myself. And there was girls from my school hanging around that were laughing, and some of them were my friends, and it was really hard for me, and I didn't know how to stand up for myself without feeling embarrassed, because I felt like I wasn't allowed to be upset about it, that it wasn't cool to stand up for myself. And I wrote this essay, the value of negative space, because I want people to fill the empty pages of their lives with their stories, and I want us to fill the negative space in our lives with kindness. If you hear someone say an unkind thing, when that happens, fill the space afterwards with kind words. I want to share this the part from the book that I wrote. This is about how I experience post-traumatic stress. So I imagine my brain is like a pinball machine with uncomfortable marbles, and each one of my obstacles is a marble. Every once in a while, one or a few shoot out, and I can either gain points for dealing with them using skills I've learned, suffer while they fall past the flippers into an abyss of panic, or just hope they roll back into the trigger slot and keep quiet so I don't have to play pinball wizard with my mental issues. What I really wish to make a point of is, amidst all of this, eventually I became a famous artist, but all of these things came with me. And I want people to know that mental health is real. It's a real part of your health. It's not separate. This is something that my mom and I talk about all the time. This book is one piece of a very huge vision for the world that my mom and I both have. We want mental health to be something that is talked about on a daily basis. We want it to be in schools. We want it to be something that people focus on in their everyday lives, a little bit every day, braver and braver all the time. And this book for me it's a very special moment for me and my mom, who, I know my mom doesn't mind me saying this, but when I was younger and I had mental issues as a child, when I was depressed, my mom didn't know always how to communicate with me about it. And through the foundation, her and I have become closer and connected, and we've acquired research, we've done studies, we've put mental health first aid in schools, and we have found a way to channel kindness into our lives in a way that's also, healed our relationship. Would you say that, Mom? Is that true? I think it's true.
Oh, I think it's absolutely true. And it helped me as a parent, like, not only learn to listen, but to understand. We always say listen to our children, but I think there's a step beyond that, and it's really understanding that their feelings are valid and they're very real. And I think that that's the part that I missed early on, and because I really didn't know how to help her, and I also didn't really understand the long-term effects that this was going to have on her. And that's why kindness is so important in sharing these stories as early as possible, so other young people are better equipped to deal with their issues.
Sure. So Cynthia, when you think back, as much as you didn't have the tools, like you hadn't yet learned the tools to help her, were you aware that she was suffering? As a mom thinking of my daughter, I can only imagine that must have been very troubling and upsetting for you if you were aware.
It was, and look, we're a close family, and sometimes I was aware, but there were times I wasn't aware. To her point, my daughter's point, there was an embarrassment, there was a shame of sharing some of this with me, so I didn't always know, and I feel horrible about that. I didn't understand, because I talk about intergenerational differences. I was raised differently, where you just have to be tough and not talk about your emotions. So I didn't always understand the difference between just normal biological teenage development and a real problem. And so I wish I knew the warning signs, and I encourage parents to find out what they are and look for them and talk a lot earlier.
Definitely. Gaga, when you think back, and of course, obviously there was an evolution over the years, but when you focus in on the bullying, do you see that as having a direct correlation with the other issues that you've addressed in your life, like your eating disorder? Like, do you see a link?
You know, I think that it's a primordial soup. You know, I think that all of the things that we are make us who we are. I think it's why storytelling is important. And when I say storytelling, I don't mean fictional stories, although if that's how you wish to express, you know, what you're going through, if you want to write a fictional story and sort of separate yourself from it a little bit, you can do that too. But you know, I think all the stories make us who we are. And like I said, what I shared in this book is just one of many stories that I have. But yes, I've had an eating disorder as long as I can remember. And also I have learned over the years from sharing my stories with other people that my eating disorder looks very different than some other people's eating disorders, and that there's a wide variety and range that I would really like for people to think about how we can learn from one another, that there's a spectrum of mental health, that there is mild anxiety, there's moderate anxiety, there's severe anxiety, there's moderate to severe, there's mild to moderate. This is a rainbow. And it's a rainbow that we should look at, because if we don't look at it, then it becomes very black and white. It becomes, well, you either have mental issues or you don't. Or does that mean, if you have mental issues, does that mean you're damaged? I remember one time, my mom knows this story, I asked my doctor, I said, do I have brain damage? Because I wanted to know if there was something wrong with me in my head that was causing the neuropathic pain that I feel, because I have very autoimmune disease-like symptoms sometimes, but I don't technically have an autoimmune disease, although my markers for it are sometimes a bit confusing. And I remember he said to me, you do not have brain damage. He said, you have some mental issues. And I thought that was very insightful, and it made me feel comforted knowing that there is a difference and that there's a space for all of those things. And it helped me to learn about what I wanted my mission to be in the space of mental health, to make sure that people understand that there's a wide spectrum of what that means. And it requires a lot of compassion, patience, diligence, and also respect. You know, we really should take a look at this, especially with what's going on in the world. People are experiencing a variety of big feelings and emotions, and we need to be there for each other. And kindness is very needed, and kind communities build kind experiences. They help us to love ourselves.
Okay, Chromatica is incredible.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I know you said that while you were putting it together that you had to go through a dark place. What were the most challenging moments for you, and what gave you hope as you were getting through it?
Well, in the spirit of channeling kindness and sharing my stories in both this book as well as in my album Chromatica, what I would say is I think the most challenging thing for me was that I used to wake up in the morning and I would realize I was Lady Gaga, and then I became very depressed and very sad, and I didn't want to be myself. I felt very threatened by the things that my career brought into my life. I felt threatened by the pace of my life. I felt threatened by my talent and my gifts, all the things that are beholden to my heart deep down. They became things that I became very scared of. And my mom knows this. You know, I spent a lot of time in a sort of, you know, catatonic state of just not wanting to do anything. And then I finally slowly started to make music. and I started to tell my story through my record. And that's what Channel Kindness is for me. This book that my mom and I are putting out, this is the hit record for all of these kids in this book. You know, they are strong, they are resilient, they've been through a lot, and they're willing to share their song in this book, and this is their hit song, you know, and everybody has one. I really believe that. I believe in God, and I'm very spiritual, and I know that I was put on this earth to communicate with the world and have a lifelong conversation with the world about many things. But I will say that my fans told me stories for many years, and I told them my story, and then we all told my mom, and my mom listened, and she carries the torch with Born This Way Foundation and Maya every single day, and that's how this book came to be. This is the dark times, not just of me, but of many, many children and people, and it deserves to be read and heard. And I encourage people to curl up at home and read it and celebrate the human spirit's ability to be brave.
Yeah. All right. Lastly, what would you both say you love most about your relationship?
I love a lot of things about our relationship, but I love how we've learned to be more open and honest and very candid with one another, which I was not always really good at. And I have to say, she helped me do that. Both of my daughters helped me do that. And through that, I have a better understanding now of what she went through, of what she's going through. I think it's made me a better mom. It's made me better prepared to help and talk to other young people and also parents. So, and we've grown together through this process. So that's what I love.
I love so much about my relationship with my mom. I mean, it's really hard to choose one thing. I feel really blessed to have the mother that I have. And, you know, my mom talks sometimes about how she didn't understand my mental issues as much when I was younger, and that she grew to understand them more. And that's such a gift to receive from your parent, and that's not a gift that every child gets to receive. And I'm really, really grateful for that. And I'm also really grateful that my mom's held space for the times where I've maybe hidden things from her and that she didn't know, because I didn't want my mom to feel sad. I didn't want my mom to feel scared for me. You know, when I had self-harm urges, it's really hard to tell your parent because you feel ashamed, and that's what I believe for me in my experience anyway. And I'm just really, really grateful that my mom holds space for me in all the things. You know, she holds space for me to be able to talk about how I feel. She also holds space for me to not want to talk about how I feel. And because of that, we have a very like healthy relationship that is beautiful and colorful and celebrates our life. And I have to say, I love strong, powerful women. And my mother and her mother and my grandmother on my father's side and my sister, I mean, I'm surrounded by some very powerful, strong women who've been through a lot. Both my grandmothers raised themselves. You know, there was so much illness in my family. My father's, you know, sister died when he was very young. I learned, when my mom talks about how when she, like in her generation, mental health was like, just be tough and like, don't talk about it. I actually understand it because I see the toughness in the women that I grew up around, and I don't look bad at anybody. You know, I don't think badly about my grandparents. I go, wow, like that's what they did to survive. But now I have this voice, and here we are, and here's this book, and I'm seeing the world, and I'm going, there's something else we can do here. And my dream is, first I want to put this book in everybody's hands so they can channel kindness and hear these stories. And then I want to help bridge, you know, other communities together by putting mental health first aid in schools, putting a mental health professional in every school, so that the idea of mental health is not something that we have to make space for anymore, but that there's already space for it, and it's normal, and it's part of who we are. I love you, Mom.
I love you
Well,
too.
Well, I'm going to do my part. We are going to do our part of the magazine. I'm so excited, and I feel privileged that you guys let me take part in this. So thank you, thank you. Yes, and it's
And
really
thank
fun.
you to People Magazine, for caring so much about this book and channeling kindness. Thank you for being an outlet that stands, for something good today. It's meaningful to us.